Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Around the Town with Chuck. My name is Chuck Guglielmo, a weekly interview show where we talk with interesting people around the community. And today my guest is Steve Wahonick. Steve, how are you today?
Good, Chuck, thank you.
Steve, I was thinking when I was driving in that, am I right, it's been like 25 or 26 years since you've graduated from Conneaut High School?
Yes, 1992.
Wow, 1992, that's a long time. And you've been teaching how many years now?
This is starting my 21st year.
When was it when you thought you wanted to become a teacher?
Well, both my parents were educators, so it's kind of been in the family. And when I went to college, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I looked at a couple different science areas. I'm like, that really wasn't my cup of tea. And I've always enjoyed sports, and I enjoy the kids. And I thought, well, that's a good combination there. And so I just went into education probably my sophomore year of college.
All your years of teaching here in Conneaut have been at the middle school?
Yes, 21 years in high school.
Do you have like 6th, 7th, and 8th graders?
Yes, we were 6th, 7th, and 8th combined.
Is that what you teach?
I teach, in the past I've had all the different grade levels. The majority of my years have been 6th grade, and that's where I am right now.
Back to 1992, of course, you played basketball. Steve Wahonick, by the way, is, if you don't know, the 8th grade basketball coach here in Conneaut and has been for quite a long time.
Yes, I've been teaching 21 years and coaching 22. And this is, I think, about the 17th year at the middle school. I did 5 years of JV, and then...
That's right, you did do JV.
Yeah, right after. Actually, I was student teaching, and Ken Housen hired me as the JV coach, so I would meet him at the games and until I was done in December, and then I was on full-time there.
Well, let's reminisce a little bit and talk a little bit about your high school playing days. Of course, you played for, was it Greg Mason?
Yes.
Coach Greg Mason, and you brought something to the game, Steve, that I don't think I've ever seen, and I think you already know what I'm going to say, right? The one-handed free throw shot?
The one-handed free throw, yeah.
I think I asked you this before, but for our newer audience and myself again, why did you develop that?
Well, I never was much of a shooter in high school. I always was the distributor. I was always passing, so I didn't shoot a whole lot. So, for whatever reason, when I went to the foul line, I wasn't as successful as I was hoping to be. And one day, Coach Mason's like, "Try one hand." So, I tried that, and I think I was a little more successful.
I was going to say, I think you made more free throws.
I mean, I probably could have tried the granny style too. I don't know, but.
Yeah. What do you remember best from that team?
I remember honestly, probably the best memory I ever had. We talk about, scholar athletes and everything like that. When I believe it was our senior year, we did the basketball team went over to Happy Hearts, and we played. We mixed ourselves up and played with some of the students over there, and that's the number one thing I remember. That's something where it makes you appreciative of what you have, and the kids were so excited, and I really enjoyed that. Now, as far as the actual season and stuff like that, I remember I started my freshman year. I played a little bit of varsity. It was mainly JV, played a little bit of varsity. So I kind of worked my way up the ladder there, and my senior year was when Danny Coxon, Mike Pape, Tony Lyons, that really good crew came in.
That team.
Yes, and it was kind of like, it had gone full circle, because I was that freshman at one point, and the seniors were taking me under their wings, and then by that time, we were mentoring them, and my only regret for that team was they played in such a strong sectional that they never really, it was one of those where they if you got out of the sectional, you had a good chance of going on advancing quite a bit in the state. Sure. So it'd been nice to see if they could have done better, but they were great kids. They're wonderful adults, and so I had a good time with that. I made a lot of good friends. I made friends in college, but my closest friends are still my high school teammates.
Greg Mason was, I always looked at him as an offensive-minded type coach. You guys were a pretty good offensive team. How did you guys fare in the standings back then? Were you like in the middle of the pack?
Yes. I know, like my freshman year, we were down, but we did have a great win against Harvey when we still had the NEC, and they were they were the top in the league, and we upset them. And then we were over 500 throughout the year. And my senior year, I think we ended up at 11-11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I know my junior and sophomore year, we're a little above 500.
Mm-hmm. Some of your teammates, and I know a couple of them because I'm close
Sure.
with them, Boyd Griffith,
Yes.
of course,
Yeah.
elected now into the Asheville
Yes.
Basketball Hall of Fame.
Very deserving of that.
Very deserving of it. Craig Fells, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Now I believe he's coaching somewhere in Indiana.
Yes, he is. Actually, Craig's one of my closest friends still. He was back then and he is now. He and his wife both teach at a school. It's called Snyder High School in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And the ironic thing is he used to coach baseball, used to coach basketball there, but he's their football defensive coordinator for their high school. And his father was a defensive football mind, so it's kind of ironic. And his team is I follow him obviously because he's my friend, but his team is always in the top 10 in the state, and they were ranked second in the state this year. So it's a very big school, and he's doing a great job.
Yeah, happy for Craig there. Do you ever see or hear from Boyd?
Yeah, actually I do. It's kind of funny now too because he has a daughter that's a senior at Lakeside, and he has another one, I believe she's in middle school. So our paths have crossed throughout. And we talked when he was getting inducted into the Hall of Fame there. So I do run into him every now and then. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Who were some of your other teammates on that during those years?
Well, a year younger than me was Jason Jackson.
Oh yeah,
A really good basketball player. There was, in my class, there was Craig, there was me, Eric Hunt, better known as Juice, Andy Smith. We were one of the
Andy Smith.
Yeah, we were like, well, you see, I'm rather short. They were much taller than me, and so we were a pretty small team our senior year. I talked about the freshmen that we had. When I was a sophomore, the seniors were like Mo Wofford, who was a player of the year. Scott Pape. Those guys were some of the other ones up there with me.
Mm-hmm. It was a good group of guys.
Yes, yeah. And you were right when you said offensive minded. Yeah, we scored a lot of points. I mean, we gave up some too. There were times when we got triple digits on that scoreboard.
I think pretty consistently, if you average it out, probably 75, 80 points a game or more.
Probably. And I may have had two of those, I'm not sure. But I helped. But yeah, they probably.
Yeah, but you were more of a defensive-minded person.
Yeah, I was.
You were a hustler out there on that court. Yeah, that's so very important. I'm sure when we talk about the 8th grade team, that's what you instruct as well.
Yeah. And this is what I tell my kids. I said, hey, you might have a bad offensive night, but defense is just effort. There's no reason for that. And you could be 5'6" like me or 6'5" and play defense. So that's you gotta. I had to work towards what I was good at, and that was my strength there.
Right. Everybody has a tendency. You always look at how many points did you score.
Yeah,
but
sure.
There's assists. There's steals. The whole ball of wax.
Yeah, that's
there.
the stat everybody wants, but that's to me that's. Obviously we need to score to win, but we got to have everybody. Everything's got to work to be successful. So I don't care who scores the points. I know kids want to be the ones scoring them, but just so the team does.
Well, you've played the game, and now you're coaching the game. Steve, when you played versus the kids you're coaching today, do you see any major differences in the style of play or how the athletes are today?
I don't know so much that, but what I think about is just technology nowadays. When I was growing up, I think we had Atari. That was about it. And everybody would be down at the courts all the time. That's what you did. You didn't have your cell phone. There was no cell phones. You didn't have Twitter and all the social media that the kids do now. I remember last spring we were driving by the courts, my wife and I said, look at all those kids out there. And she goes, well, why is that odd? I go, because it was like that all the time when I was growing up. But that's all we did, But, times have changed. And, very rarely did we work during the school year. I had summer jobs, but, a lot of kids now, they have to work. A lot of kids now, there are other options for them and alternatives to say, I don't know if I really want to play today, because they can, play their video games, they can, use their phones. But at the same time, there's also a lot more options for them as far as basketball goes. I mean, there was no such thing as I mean, if there was, I didn't know about AAU teams and travel teams, and even around, Ashtabula County now, there's teams that, they travel leagues as little kids, and there's a lot more options to them, summer baseball. Growing up, there was the ARC, that was it. That was pretty much the only option. Now, I mean, I couldn't name how many teams there are, which is good for the kids because it gives them, a lot more kids can play and better their skills as opposed to just, 10 or 12 of the best kids in the county. So they have a lot of options, and that's good for them. It's always, very rarely though, like, talking about Boyd, he might have been our last 3-sport athlete,
That's right.
And he was tremendous
I
at all of
forgot
them.
about that.
But nowadays, it's kind of how the times are. It's, basketball really isn't, we grew up, we played basketball in the summer, then took a couple months off, and you played in the fall and spring baseball. Now you get about a month off, and it's, whatever sport you're playing. So it's rare now because kids are really, it's hard to be so successful and all, playing multiple sports. And, I kind of hate to see that because I want the kids to experience everything that they can and not just limit themselves. But, like I said, it's kind of how times have changed there.
You mentioned Boyd. I didn't think about that, playing 3 sports. That's almost unheard of today.
Yeah.
That takes you all year round,
Yeah.
obviously. What was he best at? Because I know he was solid in basketball and football. I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure about baseball. I don't
But
remember.
actually, probably baseball was probably his best
Is
sport.
that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that probably was his best sport. But I mean, and my memories, obviously he would know a lot better than me, but I'm pretty sure he was all Ohio in a couple of those sports.
That's great.
So,
I know he was
But-
hard-nosed on that basketball
Yeah.
court. He could shoot from the
Yeah,
perimeter. He
he
could
was.
drive inside.
and that's what made it easy for me. I had a lot of guys that could shoot, so I didn't really need to. I was just
Yeah.
passing it around to him.
Steve Wahonick, longtime teacher and coach here in the Conneaut School District, my guest today on Around the Town with Chuck. Steve, of course, you coach the 8th grade basketball team. What is that like, coaching 8th graders? Because you mentioned earlier you did coach the junior varsity, so you went down a couple grade levels. Differences? Coaching style, players?
Well, like as I mentioned before, basketball now at the high school level, those kids, they're playing, there's summer leagues for them, there's shootouts where basically the team goes and, they'll go to a different college for a day and play 4 or 5 games. And when the kids at the high school, when they get to the first day of practice, they know a lot of the, offenses and defenses and that kind of stuff. So what's challenging at the middle school is, because 7th and 8th grade, I coach 8th, but we're basically a program. We work together. And some kids, they'll come in and they've played, city rec, but that's about it. That's their extent. So, you try, it's a fine line because you want to put in different offenses, different defenses, but they've got to have the fundamentals. They've got to know how to pass, to dribble. And I know that sounds simplistic, but that really is. And it's interesting this year because Ted Johnson's our 7th grade coach, and he's been a long time assistant at the high school. So, I told him, I said, Ted, now listen, it's going to be eye-opening. I said, at the middle school level, if you play defense, if you make half your free throws and you make your layups, you're going to win 75% of your games. And it's great to have, all these X's and O's that we think, but sometimes you can overcoach. At some point you just got to give them a couple things, let them really get well at that, get them the fundamentals, because ultimately, we want to win down at this level, but our job is to prepare them for the high school level. I want to prepare them for the high school, and I always love it when kids that have left the 8th grade and they play in the high school, because that tells me, at some point I'm doing my job because they're still interested in the game. It's not, because
Exactly.
some kids they're if they have a bad coaching experience, and I know some of them do with me, but if you have a bad experience, you're not going to do it. I want to get them prepared for the high school. We basically do what Coach Telbacca does, as far as, he's basically, he plays a lot of man-to-man principles, and that's what we try to teach, because it doesn't do us any good, if we do something different, and then at the high school you got to switch it all around, because, it's a feeder program, so we want to, obviously some things are not as complex, but we try to run some of the similar offensive sets, and to a lesser degree, but we run a lot of the same drills, just to prepare them for that because that's what the program at the high school does.
Like you said, you teach them a lot of things, the 8th graders. What do you find the hardest thing to teach? What part of the game?
Probably having a basketball mind. By that I
Great answer.
mean, you know, it's
To be smart on the court?
yeah, to understand that. I talk about people having common sense in life, but in basketball, I can tell them why you need to be here, but they've really, why you need to be in this position or that position or why we're doing this. But if they don't really understand it, it's not as, it's more challenging for them, And it varies throughout the years. I mean, sometimes I have kids that have played, and that's the key. A lot of it's just playing, or even watching. I know the NBA is not the best to watch as far as team sport, but you can kind of get an idea on things, and kind of probably that basketball mind is probably, and that's something that you can help, but it's something the kids have to really develop on their own. As I tell the kids, we have open gyms in October, we'll end in February. That's not, they're going to get better, but that's not that's not where they're really getting better. They're getting better in the off season. I tell them, if you don't pick up a ball again for another 6 or 7 months, and other people have, we haven't helped ourselves. So, and that basketball mind comes from just playing, and watching other people play and what they do and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Have you picked up any coaching pointers from your coach, Greg Mason?
Yeah. There's still some things that I try to do that he did. I first, as I said earlier, my first coaching job was at the high school with Coach Houston. And I think you get a lot of that. You hear about all these college coaches. They coach for this guy or this guy. You kind of take a little bit from everybody. And I've even taken things. For many years I was the JV baseball coach when Joel Taylor was the head coach, and I took, obviously baseball and basketball are different, but some of the same coaching techniques and what he did that I really admired, and I try to bring that over to the basketball part of it.
I know Tim Talbacco, who we've had on the show many times, thinks highly of you. He's known you a long time.
Yeah.
He talks about going back to your playing days and stuff.
Yeah.
The 8th grade team, now how many players do you have on the team?
I have 14.
14. And can you talk about some of them? How
Yeah.
they're doing? Of course, you just started your
We
season.
just started. We just had our first game was last week, which we won that, so that was nice. We'll have two. We'll play. The weather cooperates. We'll play tomorrow and Thursday, and then we will. This is the first year.
Home games?
Yes, and this is the first year because we are in District 10 for the high school. The middle school doesn't. We're independent, so by that, for those people who aren't familiar, we're not in a conference, so we're getting
I did
games
not
from
know
wherever.
that.
Yeah, we don't.
So you're not going to
But-
play those schools?
No, but we try to as much as we can. We'll reach out to them. Like we're playing Northwestern home and away, but this is the first year we're in the Girard, Pennsylvania Christmas tournament. So that's a new experience for us, and it's good for the kids too because, like I said, if they keep playing, these are the kids they're gonna, play against when they get to the high school level. I brought my roster because.
Sure, I got some of your kids.
I thought
too
you
in
might
my
ask me.
CT class.
I thought you might ask me, and I'm like, it's hard enough to remember my own kids' names, and there's 3 of them. My players this year are Chase Carpenter, Levi Corlew, Liam Frisbee, Robert Hagstrom, Patrick Cantola, Alex Kennedy, Jesse King, Alex Coleman, Delonte Lane, Jason Munette, Nick Osborne, Marcus Owens, Aiden Schrock, and Landon Simek. And what I told this group is, at the middle school level, everybody, they want to be the starters, And what I do, I always rotate my starters because I tell them everybody wants to start, but to me, it's who finishes.
Sure.
Who are those
sure.
5 I have at the end?
But isn't it a good thing they all want to start?
Oh yeah. I want to exactly. That's the competitor in them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fine line being a competitor and being a team player because honestly, this group this year, in the past, I may have had maybe a better 5, but I've never had as deep. And I say this, and I hope I don't jinx myself, but I've never had as a deep a team as I do this year. I could
that
bring.
bodes well for the future.
It does, and I could bring 10 coaches in, and I could get they could pick 10 different guys they think would be my starters. I mean, so that's what I like. Now, I told them, I said, this is what I'm seeing in practice. We'll see how the games go, but this, and that's what's important too. At the middle school level, you want everyone to play. And you want everybody to play, you want to win, but ultimately we're there to develop the kids.
Steve, when you say deep, do you also include the number of players you got out for a team? Is that about normal, or is that
that
more
is
than
probably about normal?
Okay.
We always seem to cap it at 15, and it's hard because you don't, you have a couple days of tryouts, and it's easier at the 8th grade level because most of the kids have already played, so they understand what we're doing. But 7th grade, like I said, some of those kids, it's their first experience, it's the first time of trying out. So you try to keep as many kids as you can. It's really hard once you get more than 15. And even 15 is very hard because they're 4 6-minute quarters. So, and that clock can go fast, So, typically we'll keep anywhere, depending on how many kids come out, 12 to 15 usually.
And that's the same for the 7th grade?
Yeah. Actually, they have 15 on their team this year. But, we try to, because like I said, I want all those kids to their interest. Because here's what's going to happen. I tell the kids this every year. The best kids at the 8th grade level sometimes don't even play by the time they're sophomore, for whatever reasons. Like I said, sometimes they concentrate on other sports, sometimes their interest wanes. I've had some kids that they were probably, my 11th, 12th type of kid, but they just stuck with it, worked hard, and by the time they were seniors, they were contributing members to the basketball team. And that says a lot for them, because you can easily get discouraged. And we want those kids. I want to develop them because I don't know who's going to grow,
Sure.
and or who, sometimes my post player in the 8th grade doesn't grow an inch by the time he's a senior, so he's got to have guard skills, and that's something Ted and I also try to do is we try to teach them, like, we don't just teach guards how to dribble, we don't just teach posts how to rebound. Everybody's got to do that, because your skills, your height's going to change, your abilities are going to change, and like we tell them, the more skills you can have, the more likely you are to play, because you can offer so much more to the team with them.
You said that some of those players, you don't know if they're going to take an interest in other sports. I know you had a few there that were on a very good 8th grade football team.
Yes, yeah. And we're hoping that, with that success,
Carries
breeds,
over.
yeah, because when you win, that's what you expect to do. And just the opposite. If you lose, that's the mentality. Oh well, And like I said, I'm at the middle school level, and I told the kids, hey, at the end of this game, whether we win or lose, you're still going home. Somebody's still going to feed you. I mean, we're not going to cry and everything like that. We work as hard as we can, and when it's over, we learn from our mistakes, or we learn what we did well, and we come back the next day ready to continue to practice or the game or whatever we may have.
Let's talk a little bit about your coaching demeanor and style. I know what Greg Mason's was like. He was a high, upbeat, fiery type coach. Describe your coaching style.
My personality, I'm pretty laid back, but I think when people see me coach, they're like, oh, that's Steve, but I try to tell the kids, and I've coached baseball for many years. Baseball, there's time between each pitch.
Yeah.
You think, you don't see too many fiery baseball coaches, but basketball, and it's going so fast, and you have all this commotion. So I'm yelling to the kids, and I'm trying to get excited. I try to be a little more calm. I mean, I don't think I'm a lunatic, but at the same time, I'm more outgoing than I have been. But Nick Armini, who's coached many years throughout, he coached with me a couple of years, and he said, and he just has that smooth demeanor about him. But he said, if I get too excited, the kids are going to get too excited. Which I it's a fine line, because if you look like you're nervous or panicking, or what do we do now? They need to see that calmness. So I try to do that, but it doesn't always work for me. But yeah, I mean, and I tell kids, look, I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling to you to get it's such fast
And I'm
pace.
sure they all understand.
Yeah, they do.
Officiating at the 8th grade level versus the high school level, do they call the game the same way? Be careful, my next guest is an official, by the way. How do you see the officiating on the 8th grade level?
It all depends. It's good. It's good. First of all, I want to make that comment. But some, and I tell the kids, and it's just like the high school level. Some officials, hey, they're going to call it 3 seconds. That's what they call. If they've called it once or twice, sometimes you'll go games without getting it, and sometimes you'll official call it five times in a game. So officiating, I never have a problem with the officiating because, hey, there's things I know they don't get everything right, but they get more than they don't, and it's not a job anybody really likes. And at that level, you kind of get two groups. You get like, for instance, Alex Polchowski. He's an up and coming official. And
next guest.
All right, there you go. And this is where he's kind of getting his feet wet here. He's starting out, and he's going to work. He does a really nice job. He's going to work his way up. And he has some JV games and stuff like that. And then you get the guys that are kind of towards the tail end, where they've done that high school thing. They want to come back down to the middle school level where maybe it's not so fast paced, or whatever the reason may be. They're not looking to get 5 games a week. They're a couple games a week just to do it. You see a lot of the same officials. So I rarely do I ever try to yell about an official or at an official, because one, it sets a bad precedent for the kids to see that, and two, if I yell at them all the time, they're just going to think I complain all the time. But if I say, I don't know about that one, something like that, then maybe they're thinking, oh, you know what, he doesn't say anything, so maybe I did miss it, and like I said, I make mistakes, they make mistakes, kids make mistakes, but for the most part, the officiating is pretty much the same, It's a slower paced game, obviously, than the high school, and that is one thing that I miss at the high school level, is that kind of that Friday night excitement. You're playing your rival. Although nowadays, we're getting new rivals in District 10. It's just it's just a shame.
Something you got to get used to, I guess.
But we knew all these kids from different schools, and now the kids know them even more than we did. With all the social things, and it's kind of funny because, us growing up, I guess we were more disliked the other team, even though not that they were bad kids, but nowadays, these kids know each other. They hang out all the time. A lot of them play on summer leagues together. But I do miss that intense competition. Friday night type of game. You just don't get that at the middle school. It's the transition. They work their way up like that.
How many games do you play?
We have, I believe, right now, we're going to have about 14 or 15, and then, like I said, we're playing in the Girard tournament.
Is that a regular season game, or is that a scrimmage?
Those can count. You can have 16 regular season games, and those 3 can count towards our regular season games. So I think we have 15 regular season, and then at the end of the year, the NAC, which is like Grand Valley, Pymatuning Valley, Wyndham, teams in the southern part, they've always, I shouldn't say always, but probably the last 7 or 8 years, they have a postseason tournament, and they've always invited us down. 8th grade always plays at Bristol. 7th grade always plays at Matthews. So the kids are going to get a lot of once again. And we try, and if the weather doesn't cooperate, we always try to reschedule the best we can. But they're going to get a lot of games here.
So a lot of your games are more county, unlike the high school.
Yes, we play St. John twice. We play Lakeside twice. We play Pymatuning twice, Grand Valley twice, Northwestern over in Albion, Pennsylvania. We play them twice.
Braden?
We unfortunately weren't able to get like Braden and Jefferson. They're in the All-American Conference.
That's right.
So you're allowed 16 games. They have 14 league games, and it just so happened we usually do play Braden and we usually do play Jefferson, whether it's once or twice. But it just so happened this year they didn't have any openings for us. And like I said, that's a shame because, and no fault of their own or ours, but you just like when you can play teams that are close to you, especially travel time. I mean, in that American Conference, those guys, they're going down to Warren Harding on a Wednesday night and those types of things. So we do have Hickory coming in to Conneaut this year at the middle school level, and that's new. So that's another team that we picked up.
One final question for you, Steve. Watching the JV game the other night against Edgewood, good-looking freshman. I think you had him, Burkhardt.
Yes, yes.
Tell me about him. He looked very good in his first appearance.
Yeah,
In
and
varsity. Actually, it was in varsity where I saw him.
yeah, I saw a big jump from Anthony from 7th to 8th grade. He got a little taller, and he's a big kid, but he's got guard skills too. And he's a very hard worker. You know, he'd be diving on the floor. He works really hard. That's a very
I
promising
think he was
freshman.
listed at 6'2" already in the eighth
Probably,
grade.
yeah.
That's good. So that's good to have. Well, Steve, we want to wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me
Maybe I
on.
can catch a couple of your games. You say you're home tomorrow night?
Yeah, tomorrow and Thursday.
And your game's at what?
4:30, 7th grade starts, and then 8th grade usually starts about 5:45, like 15 minutes after the 7th grade, whenever
All
they
right.
finish.
Well, good luck to you.
Thank you. I
And,
appreciate it.
Keep them coming to the high school.
I'll do my best.
Steve Wahonick, my guest today on Around the Town with Chuck.